In today's video, I want to discuss the unspoken formula used to create wealth. Now, this isn't some morning routine or any daily habits. While all of that is incredibly important, what I've come to realize is that all of those habits and routines don't do us any good if we don't first have a basic understanding of how wealth is built. What I'm going to share today is a 4-step process that pretty much every single wealthy person has used, whether they realized it or not. The fact is, 80% of millionaires are self-made, meaning they didn't inherit their wealth. They built it from the ground up. So it's absolutely possible to do it, and it doesn't even require you to start your own business. If that's your goal, great. All the power to you. However, it's not a necessity. This can absolutely be done whether you're looking to start a business or not. So with all of that in mind, let's get into it. The 4-step process goes like this. Step number 1, intangible assets. Step number 2, earned income. Step number 3, tangible assets. And step number 4, unearned income. Let's start with intangible assets. Typically, when we think of intangible assets, we think of patents, copyrights, intellectual property, things of that nature. But I think there's a whole other side to intangible assets that's a bit more difficult to evaluate. These assets are things like knowledge, experience, and work ethic. They're super valuable in giving you a competitive advantage, but because they're not tangible, they're a bit more difficult to know exactly just how valuable they are. For example, veteran lawyers make significantly more than rookie lawyers, not necessarily because of how much time they've been practicing law. Time itself is fairly insignificant. What makes them more valuable is the knowledge and the experience that they've gained during that time. Some people think it's enough just to stay with a company. If I stay with this company long enough, then I'll get that promotion, then I'll get that pay raise. Yes, loyalty plays a role in that, but I would argue more important than loyalty is value. What do you add to the company? And are you the same employee now as you were when you first started? A relative of mine was a surgical nurse, and she had the privilege of assisting on the first open heart surgery in Orange County, California. That in and of itself is an intangible asset because at the time, very few people were able to say that they assisted on an open heart surgery. That gave her a competitive advantage. So why are intangible assets so important when it comes to building wealth? It's actually fairly simple. The more intangible assets you have, the greater your earnings potential becomes. The more knowledge and experience you acquire, the more valuable you become, the greater your earnings potential is. Now, the common misconception when it comes to intangible assets is that they only come with time, but that's not true. Sure, you can only personally experience so much, but that's not the only way to acquire intangible assets. The alternative to personal experience is the experience of others. That's why so many successful and wealthy people have mentors to transfer their knowledge and their experience over to them. And get this, much of our experience comes in the form of mistakes. I don't want to have to learn from my own mistakes. I'd much rather learn from the mistakes of others. And then on the flip side of that, we also learn from our success. But I don't want to have to wait around for my success to know what it was that actually worked. I'd rather learn from other successful people to find out what it was that worked for them. Now, that's not to say you won't make mistakes of your own, but think of all the additional intangible assets you can acquire by not only learning from your own personal experiences, but from the experiences of others as well. So now that takes us to the next step, step number 2, which is earned income. Earned income is the income that you work for, and it directly correlates to the intangible assets. What can you offer that very few other people can? What knowledge and experience do you have that can give you a competitive advantage? That is what is going to open doors to higher paying jobs, promotions, and business opportunities. I want you to realize something though. Earned income does not directly aid wealth. It indirectly aids wealth. Very, very few people have actually built wealth solely based on their earned income. And the reason for that is earned income requires hours. It requires work. And you can only work so many hours before you hit a ceiling. Earned income is not designed to directly aid the accumulation of wealth, but it does indirectly aid that wealth. And here's how. Wealthy people utilize their earned income to acquire tangible assets. Step number 3 is tangible assets. Those are things like stocks, bonds, real estate, things that have the potential to either increase in value or generate income. That's the key. If you want the formula for poverty, it's using your earned income to fund your lifestyle. That's a sure way to never accumulate any wealth. But Ian, all of the wealthy people I see are driving fast cars, have nice watches, and live in massive homes. Sure, and there's 2 possible explanations for that. Number 1, they probably aren't wealthy. They probably earn a decent income that allows them to fund that lifestyle, but they're not actually building any wealth. And the second possibility is they aren't actually utilizing their earned income to fund that lifestyle. They're utilizing their earned income to purchase tangible assets, which are then providing unearned income. Which takes us to step number 4. Unearned income, or otherwise known as passive income, is what directly aids the accumulation of wealth. So while earned income indirectly aids the accumulation of wealth, unearned income is what directly leads to it, and here's why. Unearned income is not constrained by anything. It's not constrained by time, energy, effort. So really, there's no ceiling on it. Your ability to receive unearned income is only impacted by the first 3 steps. It's the fruit of the intangible assets, then the earned income, and then the tangible assets. And the best part is, you can either use that unearned income to fund your lifestyle, or you can utilize it to purchase more tangible assets that will continue to help you build wealth. I like to use the phrase critical mass. This is the idea that there is a certain level, a certain condition that needs to be met, but once that threshold is reached, it's moving. There's no stopping it. And it's no different with wealth. It's difficult at first because it doesn't feel like we're building wealth. And the reason for that is our earned income doesn't directly help us accumulate wealth. But if you can understand, if you can realize that it's indirectly helping you accumulate that wealth, and all you have to do is reach that point of critical mass, I promise you, you'll be successful. So let me give a quick recap. The first step is to increase your intangible assets. And a great way to do this is to surround yourself with successful people. Now, they don't have to be multimillionaires. They just need to be at a level, at a position higher than you currently are. Another thing is to start reading books. Educate yourself not just in your field, but in overlapping fields, and utilize that knowledge and experience to leverage pay raises, better jobs, promotions, and different business opportunities. But you need to realize that this is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. So be patient, Accumulate as many intangible assets as you possibly can and leverage your earnings potential. That will allow you to utilize your earned income to purchase tangible assets. Now, real estate can have a pretty high barrier to entry, so be patient. Keep setting money aside to be able to acquire those assets. And finally, as you acquire those tangible assets, utilize the unearned income to acquire additional tangible assets. Keep doing that until the unearned income allows you to continue building wealth while funding your desired lifestyle. That is the 4-step process used by pretty much every wealthy person ever to create their wealth. As always, please make sure to like and subscribe. And if you need more in-depth help when it comes to personal finances, make sure to click the link in the description. We'll see you next time.